I'm David with EV World News. We're talking about electric vehicles, green energy, and the stock markets. And I'm back today on a Wednesday with our resident engineer, Mike Herzog. How's it going, Mike?
Man, I'm doing pretty good today. I didn't tell you this on the beforehand, but I had one of my all-day EV courses yesterday,
Oh,
teaching
Lord.
on everything. No, it's great, and it's a compliment to this show and being on it, because it is, anytime I get a question, I can rattle off so many current events and facts about the EV market and what that looks like just really quickly. And it's, yeah, so hopefully maybe, making some more LinkedIn connections out there in the world of EVs to get some more viewers. But hey, can you comment about, such, or this manufacturer, this developer? You know what? I can. That's
Because we
Here's
covered
the
it.
latest news. Can you talk about Ford's, move to more high? You know what? I can talk about that.
Yeah,
That's great.
that is funny. Was it a
Mhm.
local thing or was it
No, it's a
Zoom
national
type?
through a training company, and so there was a couple people from New York, a couple people from California, a couple people from Kentucky, and then just a handful of random people through the rest of it.
Were they more like grid professionals?
They are, a lot of it's policymakers, and it's more, what I teach is really more focused on grid impacts. But it's, when you talk about EVs and how they exist out in the world and trends and topics, like, man, I got a Rolodex in my head of
I
2,000 things we've talked about on this show and those
know.
come up. Yeah.
I try not to talk about the same stuff, but sometimes, I will tell you that in the past like 2 weeks, the Meta buying the 6.6 gigawatt hours of nuclear capacity has dominated it.
It's
Every time
all
I
over.
pull up,
Mhm.
there's somebody new reporting on the same thing every day, and it's kind of funny. It's like, man, that's from 2 weeks ago. Stop telling me that's current news, because that's from 2 weeks ago. You know, and can only cover that so much. It's like even today, AI data centers driving unprecedented grid demand. And
Check. Yes. Yeah.
yeah, so, yeah, data centers projected to consume, this is by 2028, anywhere from 6.7, which that's oddly specific, to 12% of US electricity, up from 4.4 in 2023. So they're saying in a 5-year span, it'll go from 4.4 to maybe as much as 12% of the US grid.
It's insane. And we talk about it a lot because it's the news. It's the news in the power industry right now that we see. Just like for reference, I know this is a local reference, but we call it data center alley, in quarter section, square mile area where there's Google, there's Facebook. What used to be Yahoo isn't that far away. There's a
Mhm.
couple private data center developers in there. And with all of the expansion, that little tiny, quarter section, square mile area consumes more power than the capital city of Nebraska, which is a population of 300,000 people. It's just crazy. It's just crazy. So we see it a lot. It's a big deal. It's one of the big comments I always have in my EV classes, like, electric vehicles are going to be an issue someday. Locally, your panel in your house, the lines in your neighborhood, once everybody gets one. But don't be fooled. The problems we're seeing today is data center growth. It's all
Well,
data centers. EVs are a drop in the bucket.
you look at the solutions that EVs present with vehicle to grid, and with the idea, like, we had a whole thing on that I just love on the Chinese cement mixers that had the battery swap technology.
Mhm.
Think about the grid stabilization from something like that. I mean, having those 300 kilowatt hour batteries sitting there charging
Yep.
continuously, and then the next day during the day, they're all charged because they all charged up overnight, and you have all that power available during the daytime.
Mhm.
And I mean, that is a big hit for grid stabilization. I don't know
It's
how
yeah.
much more stability you present than something like that.
No, EVs, and that's every chance I get and talking to people and whoever it is. It's, this is not EVs. Like, EVs are, put them in a different bucket. Like, that's the grids handling that very, very differently, and in a positive way. I think this is all hyperscale data center growth that now in huge quantities of power.
So I love AI. Okay. I subscribe to multiple AIs, them constantly. I'm constantly asking questions. Even a lot of, I probably, we do the show 3 days a week. I figure I save 30 to 45 minutes a day on those 3 days getting the content for the show using AI to help me pick articles.
Mhm.
Okay. And so I've written some scripts to do that. Even our stock ticker, Yogi, I think, has it programmed to automatically create itself at a certain time of the day to do that.
Yeah.
Okay. So our producer for the show, he does this. And so we have all these things. On the flip side, AI does not create jobs. It's the opposite, right? And so I'll tell you, so that for those of you that don't know, Mike and I are working on some projects to sell energy with eventually it being nuclear energy,
Mhm.
but we're providing power to what seems to be manufacturing. Our avatar seems to be manufacturing. Manufacturing drives jobs. We have a current administration that's trying to drive manufacturing and manufacturing because that creates jobs. Jobs require housing.
Mhm.
But to have manufacturing and housing, you have to have energy. And so what happens is you have this terrible, it's chicken and the egg, but you also need a place to lay the egg, right?
Yeah.
And so
100%.
yeah, you need the chicken coop as part of the process too. So you have to have all of these things. And so these cities that are trying to court manufacturers don't have the power for it. So I hear people all the time. It's like, can't you do this for AI? It's like, well, you can, but AI is not going to give you any jobs. It's just going to eat your
Mhm.
resources. Okay. So and I'm not trying to criticize AI. I know I'm going to be selling energy for AI projects too. But I was talking to a real estate developer today. He wants nuclear energy to help power some communities that don't have, there's no access to power. The power is not there. The generation's not there. And I'm like, well, you need jobs to sell your homes.
Mhm.
And so, we're trying to fill that by telling
Yeah, I think it's not to get too deep into our side business or what main business
but
what we're
this
looking
is,
at a lot of
we're
this, but
talking.
it is interesting the way we've kind of landed in manufacturing and looking at it from that perspective, and it just feels so much more tangible. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's just, okay, this is a real project. We get it. It's here for the long haul. You have expansion plans. You need power today. It's just, yeah, it's interesting the way that's not for lack of looking for data project, or not understanding what's out there, but it's just these seem more like they need a little bit of somebody fighting for them on the side and making sure that those manufacturing jobs are more viable
Yeah. Well,
or available.
I'm just saying that the way that works, and it's kind of hard to understand that, but all these people, these data centers, the data centers are, you know, uh, they're going, AI is going to change the nature of work. And the
Mhm.
funny thing is, this is one of the weird arguments I've heard, that AI is capable of doing highly skilled work. And so what happens is when you're using AI a lot, AI is doing your highly skilled work for you and leaving a little bit of the grunt work, which, the idea is that automation gets rid of grunt work, right? But in
Mhm.
reality, for a lot of positions, AI is being designed like to do your computer programming.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, these people who were computer programmers, now all of a sudden you just have to talk to AI to do your computer programming. Well, that's kind of, the opposite. And I'm trying to use AI to help people who work be able to do their work more efficiently. But by them being more efficient, they're able to do more work, which means we need less employees, right? And so I've been looking at all these different things for a manufacturing, or not, I'm sorry, not manufacturing, but a construction supply company. They supply
Mhm.
light bulbs, commercial light bulbs. And I mean, a lot of light bulbs. Like they have 105,000 square feet of light bulbs.
A lot of
Okay.
light bulbs.
It's a lot of light bulbs. Anyways, but I've been showing them how to increase some of their processes. And we've been looking at ways to get sales intelligence. I've found AI products that will go out and find their ideal customer avatar, find all the information about them on LinkedIn, pull it into their Microsoft Dynamics CRM, and then when the salespeople are talking to them, it'll record one of the AIs will record their calls, put the notes into the CRM. And if there's problems with a customer, it'll notify a manager that there's a problem with that customer, that a manager needs to know that that's going on.
Amazing.
Yeah. And
right?
When I'm telling them this, they're going, you can do all that. And it's like, oh yeah.
Yeah. And I mean,
it's crazy. And the AI can even tell you, to a certain degree, you can have them set up to be coaching somebody as they're talking and say, this person asked this. The AI can be listening and it can say, this is how you respond to that question.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just crazy. I mean,
it's incredible. It's incredible. I'm in the middle of AI in the boom, and it's just half of me is saying, man, there is a bubble to be burst out there, and just with the requirements of computing power and just the horsepower behind that to get kind of to that next level, it's exponential. It's exponential. Right now, successful AI is what, 85% accurate. That's good enough. But to get to those next even incremental percentages, it's like exponential more computing power. However, it's what you just said, where there is 75% of the workforce out there that's not using it yet. And everybody, when they realize like, oh, it can do that. Yeah, it can. It's talking with people, grant development. And so, grant, this stuff takes so much time. Like, have you done a whole bunch of them in the past? Yeah. Feed it into the model and say, here's my new application. These are the questions they're going to ask. 50% of them are the same, just worded slightly.
Right.
Spit it out, update it. And it's things like that where, oh, I didn't know I could use it for that. It's not cheating. These are your own words. It's just repurposing it for it's amazing that part of it, the applications out there, it's not even scratching the surface.
No, I taught somebody how to write an agent to solve a problem that they had as something that they felt consumed too much of their workday. And I actually taught them how to write the agent so they could go back to China, where we have 17 employees in China in a sourcing company, to how to all do the same thing. And it was going to save them all a couple hours a day.
Yeah.
I mean, but it was something where there was one computer system that didn't talk to the other computer system. And this is actually a problem in that a lot of software products you use in the States don't work over in China, because especially like Google products, they don't allow WhatsApp. Oh, that WhatsApp, they don't allow Facebook or Google products.
You don't have WhatsApp in China?
No, you have to use WeChat.
Oh, because God, everywhere else in the world, it's all WhatsApp. I mean, if you don't have WhatsApp on your phone, you're not communicating.
But you can't use WhatsApp in Dubai.
You can't use it there either. Really?
Yeah. So it's only two places I'm aware of that you can't use it, but there's probably more. But those are the only two that I personally had experiences with where you can't use WhatsApp. Yeah, it's really strange. And I'm not a real big fan of WeChat. It's you almost have to get somebody who lives in China to approve you to be a WeChat user. So you can't just go and download WeChat. I mean, you can download it, but you have to.
I've never.
Yeah. So if you're dealing with somebody there, Taiwan, people from Taiwan can add you too. And so it's really kind of a bizarre, but once you're on WeChat, you can add other WeChat users. It's just, if you don't have WeChat,
you got to get your foot in the door.
You got to get your friend at the CCP to. One of my local friends at one of the universities here, he's a professor. His sister is probably about as high up as you can get as a female in the CCP. What was it? Bill sent me an article yesterday. I'm always talking about China's run by engineers and we're run by lawyers. Somebody, had this article. Bill felt he should send it to me, but they went more in depth on the topic, and some of it got kind of funny. It's like, they're at the highest level, there's no women. And so it's like, so my friend's sister has got to be one of the highest. She's over all the medical manufacturing in I can't remember which province, but it's just kind of funny to see, this kind of stuff with the CCP. So certainly not a fan certain internet fan, but I've always thought that guy was a spy. He certainly, and he fits the bill. He even kind of looks the part. He looks like
Yeah.
he's probably was in the military or something, and he just has that
Just
look.
one of the, yeah, just like, okay, you're one of those, you're giving off that vibe,
But he runs an engineering department for Nebraska for the university system. Anyways, but back to the whole data center problem. So PJM Interconnection unveiled an emergency plan to manage AI-driven power surge. Texas becoming the top data center market. Now, PJM that's all East Coast, right?
It's East Coast, mid-Atlantic up through upper Midwest, in that block in there.
Yeah. FERC approved a central U.S. grid plan. You were looking at that not too long ago, weren't you?
Yeah. I'm familiar with that, and I'm familiar with PJMs. I've supported some development in that area, and yeah, they just completely changed it. They're right in the middle of their transition right now. We'll see if they hit their dates. They're really far out, but I don't know if they're going to be able to hit it.
Do you know what SPP is?
Yeah.
What is that?
So that's where we're at. That's the Southwest Power Pool.
Okay.
So it's similar to PJM, but it covers Oklahoma, Kansas, parts of Missouri. Maybe not Missouri. Maybe that's a different one. Nebraska up through the Dakotas, and they keep expanding too. They're all growing.
SPP warning: peak load could jump from 56 gigawatts last year to 105 by 2035. So they expect it to be just slightly short of doubling.
It's crazy, and that's probably based off legitimate numbers.
I'm sure
where people have come in and made these requests and want to develop and put in. There's still a little bit, and the industry is really trying to eliminate this, but site fishing, because power availability and infrastructure costs can be really, really big. If you have to build or rebuild a new transmission line, I mean, that's a $50 million, $100 million project, easy. So you want to pick a spot where you don't have to do anything like that. So always it used to work. We're going to submit for 5 spots, and whichever one comes back the cheapest, that's what we'll go with. But in the meantime, when you're planning the grid, I have to study each one of these spots. And then when you narrow your list down, I have to study those spots again, and I have to study it. And when you couple that with renewable developers doing the same thing, they want 5 spots, data center wants 5 spots, then exponentially, like, that grows really fast. And that's what gummed up the entire works of people just fishing. Like, what's the cheapest?
Well, I remember like 3 years ago when China banned Bitcoin mining. You had all these Chinese Bitcoin miners wanted to move to the United States for cheap power.
Mm-hmm.
And so you had this issue. And I remember talking with numerous states. Nobody had spots.
Yeah.
I mean, it was really hard to find a location that had excess energy that you could go. I mean, a lot of it was infrastructure. It's like, okay, here's a location in Missouri where 20 years ago they were manufacturing steel, and it doesn't do that anymore. And so all of the transformers are there, all the power lines are there. We could give you the kind of energy draw there if we had the excess energy to sell you, right? And it's like, damn, and that's we're going back to that point. It's like we keep talking about. There's all these places want electricity. They have, they may have a way to get transmission lines, but there's no way to sell them power.
There's no power. Yeah, there's no power available. And it's like talk with developers in that space and work with some private investment, looking at developing, and it's an interesting play. It's like, yeah, there's money to be made. There's things out there, but we'll just find all the easy spots are gone. Like we'll find a great location and it's going to be ready and there's power, and it may be 5 years ago, but those have been gone for years, and like the lines out the door with the largest companies in the world, your Metas and Alphabet and everybody, that they're in line ahead of you and have unlimited capital to throw at this. So you're not going to get it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's nuts. When we have stories like the guy we had on from Denver who was trying to get a couple of EV chargers hooked up, and it took him 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, some of that stuff just seems absolutely ridiculous that it could be those kind of problems. And yet at the same time, aren't there still green energy projects out there that haven't really been connected to the grid yet, that bringing in no revenue? That's the number one reason why green projects go bankrupt, is because they're never connected to the grid in time to be able to actually start selling power and pay their bills.
100%. It's just between supply chain issues, critical pieces of equipment are years out. And this is not an exaggeration. Some pieces of equipment used to be high voltage equipment 6 to 8 months. I mean, it was a long lead time. It was a custom order. You know, you had to put in your specs and do everything like that. But those things that used to be, okay, put in your order 6 to 8 months. I mean, it's 2 to 3 years now for, you know, bread and butter components. This is not exotic. This is not a, you know, specific puzzle piece widget we have to fit. Like, every project needs these, but it's years out just to get basic equipment anymore.
Did you see the news in the last couple of days about what Canada's doing with the EV tariffs?
Yeah, I did see that.
Dropping from 100% to
100% to 6%, right?
Yeah, but they're going to limit it to 49,000 vehicles per year.
I didn't see that part of it. Okay.
Yeah, but they expect Tesla to be the main. So Tesla will bring their cars they make in China
over here
instead of from the States. Yeah, but that's a pretty big deal. So we're going to probably see BYD dealers in Canada. You know, that's what's
that's actually that course I taught yesterday. That was one of the closing comments of like, watch this, because it's the case study. If we open up the US market to Chinese vehicles, like, let's watch Canada, see what happens up there.
Yeah. Oh no, that's going to be it's going to be bonkers, because if BYD starts selling their vehicles up there, man, it's going to be really tough for the US manufacturers to compete up there.
I think so.
Really tough.
I think so.
Yeah. I mean, when they're delivering vehicles for half the price of what similarly equipped vehicles cost in the United States, man, that's just hard to fathom that they've improved things that much. But a lot of it's because batteries have gotten so cheap.
Yep.
You know, as the batteries have gotten cheap and the batteries don't cost, you know, so many people still think it costs $30,000-$40,000 to replace a battery in an EV, and the Chinese are delivering EVs for $10,000. You know, with the battery.
Battery.
Yeah, and you know, so that is hard to fathom that you could have new.
No, I think that's one we're going to be watching pretty close over the next year, and just see what the heck does that look like, and how do all of these numbers change, because that's the neighbor to the north. I mean, that's not Mexico or Central America and everything. I mean, that's America effectively, you know, from a per capita, you know, wealth and everything like that, standard of living, expectations, infrastructure. I mean, that's America.
Well, it's our only first world neighbor.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see.
Third world.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. And you get it, like a $10,000 car, very, very going to be very, very popular, you know, in Central America. But Canada, like, I think it's going to be pretty popular there too.
Yeah, I mean, you think about that. I mean, that's the price of a golf cart.
Yeah, truly. No joke.
Yeah, and you get a fully functioning car that's probably, you know, at least as nice as a Nissan Sentra, which is right at 20,000. I think the Sentra is about the cheapest vehicle you can buy in the States now, because I think they got rid of the Versa. They had a cheaper model, and I think they got rid of the Versa. But so I thought that was a pretty big deal.
I think so, yeah.
So got another article on racing to meet electricity demand, kind of what we've been talking about, but it's from Project Finance. It's a law website, projectfinance.law. Okay, this comes from. But their main insight was gas-fired power plants are 5+ years away, nuclear is 10 years away, wind, solar, and batteries are the only solution to meet surging demand until then, despite all the nuclear hype. Well, it's funny because we've been talking about LNG, gasification of trash, waste to energy, and then nuclear in 5-6 years. So this is obviously quite biased. You know, I was at a fusion energy conference. One of them was saying about how nuclear waste takes 10,000 years to dispose of. Well, unless you run it through one of these reactors that cuts it down to 150.
Mhm.
And it's like, so, there's solutions and all kinds of things. People have bias, and, we see a lot of this, but
Well, we see it on both ends, and it's one. There's no place for renewables. They're unreliable. Hey, we need resiliency and reliability in the grid. The other side, where we just said, hey, the only answer is renewables. I don't think we've ever, at least personally, have taken the stance like the only answer is renewables. Like, because the sun doesn't shine at night, what do you do? Like, well, we know that we have gas, we have nuclear today, but renewables help. Our peak load periods are when the sun is shining. It's it helps. It's a positive thing. It takes away from it. Is it the only answer? Is it a standalone solution? Like, absolutely not. Even renewables, solar with batteries, like, is it a standalone solution? No. You still need base load out there, but
I
it
see.
helps, and it
Well,
can be deployed quickly now.
You remember that I shared that thing with you about this company doing off-grid solar, and they had this calculator, but it was like this much solar, this much for the battery storage, this much for the LNG.
Yeah, or diesel. God, like,
Yeah.
you still need something when the going gets tough. Like, and that's,
You got to have power to turn on and
yeah,
burn.
I don't think people that seriously, kind of analyze the grid from that perspective would ever propose a purely renewable solution. Like, no, you still need something there. You still need something there. Now, we can limit it. You don't have to run as much natural gas during the day when the sun's shining, which is great. But at some point, you need something resilient on the back end of it.
Should you run as much solar and wind as possible? Absolutely. Get the battery storage out there to help use it to moderate things.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, you've got to have something. And now this waste to energy with trash, they're calling it base load energy. It's still, in my mind, I just can't see it being 100% uptime, like having, LNG going or something like that.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it's close. You know what I mean? They claim
close.
they can get real close to it.
And it's locally, it just closed within the past couple of years. We had methane collection on one of our landfills that powered generating turbines off of that. And that had just dang near 100% uptime. You take it down for maintenance a little bit, but otherwise those things just ran and ran and ran and ran.
Why did they take it down? Was it?
I don't know, to be honest with you. I don't know. Maybe it was one of those just end of life and they didn't want to put it back in. I truly don't know.
I mean, I always go back to economics, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But you and I talk about this a lot of times. It's like if they were doing it somewhere where it was close to the city, so there wasn't a whole lot of transmission cost,
And this was, I mean, this is just up here in Douglas County, the Douglas County landfill. So I don't know why they got rid of it. It just seemed like it ran. Maybe O&M costs, OpEx was way too high. I don't know.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, so one of the things is our power here in Nebraska is pretty cheap, and I'm not sure if the gasification projects of the wet waste to energy, converting it into LNG, if those would make great economic sense in some place. Because like even, some of the stuff you and I've talked about, I've been asked, well, how close is it to a good trash source or a larger population center where we could pick up trash and haul it and then burn it at the site? And I'm like, well, probably an hour away. I was thinking like St. Joseph, for instance. Looks like it's about an hour away on the map. And anyways, but I'm just not sure that how the economics play out. If you can burn LNG and generate power for 6-7 cents, and the trash, I figure, is probably more like 9-10 cents. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But when we get to nuclear, it's probably 7 cents. But once again, the key advantage of nuclear is that it's right there where you're going to use the power
on site. Yeah. And
so you cut out that transmission cost,
it
just runs. Yeah. And you don't have to worry about it the same way. It's funny because that's a change in nuclear, right? From the idea of worrying about the is the thing going to melt down or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's just a different, a different concept. But it's interesting because this article is trying to talk about, both the lack of investment in clean energy, but how it's the future. But, over in China, they're putting in massive amounts of wind farms and solar farms and all that. But China has such a demand for electricity. They're even increasing at the same time they're doing all this. They're putting in more coal-fired power plants. So they're absolutely throwing everything up against the wall to try to compete to meet their own energy demands. And that's it's interesting to kind of see how that is playing out. Now the World Economic Forum is going on and in Davos, and they're even saying that continued expansion of coal, oil, and gas is incompatible with planetary stability and long-term prosperity. Fossil fuels remain the primary driver of global warming and ecosystem degradation, creating material risk to food systems, health, public health, infrastructure, and national economies. Even if you go away from the global warming discussion, okay, and you leave that out, there's no, you have so many alternative fuel sources now that are actually economically viable. They produce solar so cheap in Asia versus what it costs here in the United States. I mean, our cost is much higher here to put it in, both residential and the big solar grid farms. But you're seeing a reduction in fossil fuel usage in general. I mean, you look at China, where they switched half of new vehicle sales to electric. It's both cleaning up the air, and at the same time, it's reducing their dependency on other countries. And I think this is, if I'm a leader of a country, I want energy independence.
100%. And that's the one in the back of my mind. I just can't get past of that argument of, well, we don't want solar, we don't want. Boy, that's independence, though. I mean,
Yes.
that is your
100% American solar energy.
Oh, and electric vehicles too. Of like, boy, why? And I know we have a huge production, capability in the United States of oil and processed and refined into gasoline, but boy, we import a lot too. It's what like don't we want to move away from that as a piece of national security? But I don't know.
It's interesting to see the arguments against it. I mean, I like all the discussions about nuclear energy, but I tell people all the time, nuclear is a tool. It's a tool in the energy makeup, and there's a bunch of tools there, and they all have their place, even if geothermal brings bad juju.
Just don't go to the wrong
island. don't upset the gods underneath the island. Yeah. But some of the arguments at Davos and the World Economic Forum is that some regions are becoming uninsurable, and climate risks are increasingly showing up in how countries are rated by financial markets and in company accounts. And that's been an interesting piece, because you look at how insurance rates have changed in Florida and California in particular, because of hurricanes and all that.
Wildfires.
Wildfires.
Repeated in the same areas. Yep.
I'm not so sure about the climate change argument on some of that, but I do think, you look at wildfires. Well, a lot of those wildfires were caused by the power company. And, the power company was responsible for a lot of that. So if you didn't have the power company, it's still human caused, right? It's a human caused problem. I mean, they think most of lightning causes forest fires, right? But to be fair, I don't think that's the case, that's most of them anymore. I think most of them are accidentally man-made. I don't think it's arson. I'm not saying it couldn't be arson, but I think most of the time it's just something got screwed up, something wasn't maintained right, and it caused a fire. And, but without, 30 something million people living in California, you don't have that problem, now hurricanes in Florida, that's a different story. But on the flip side, those hurricanes, one of my friends doing a project in the Caribbean has made their property where they're building a manufacturing facility. He said the worst hurricane that they've had in that country occurred in like 1702. And they built it so that it would survive the 1702 hurricane.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it was stronger than, I mean, it was a category 5, but its storm surge went so high up into the inland, but they made sure that they're building their manufacturing facility above that storm surge. Okay. And so, you can say whatever, but we didn't used to have, 25 million people living in Florida, right? And so you got 25 million people in Florida that are affected by when a hurricane rolls through. I mean, that's
it's a density thing for
yeah,
sure, for sure. It'll be, from the World Economic Forum, it'll be, I mean, yes, all of those things are true. I mean, those issues, but we've talked about this before too. It's really hard at the end of the day, if you have a reliable supply chain, there's nothing faster or cheaper than coal. I mean, it's fast to put up a plant. It's dirt cheap to build. It's dirt cheap to maintain and operate if you have coal available. And especially in Southeast Asia and India and places with the population boom and rural electrification in those areas, where you still have huge swaths of the population that effectively don't have access to electricity,
right.
or very, very limited. And as that starts to increase, boy, the speed of deployment and you can't get past coal. Now, I'm not advocating for, but it's just, if you look at it purely functionally, economically, it's really tough to get past that one.
Yeah, I was looking at some place, I can't remember if it was Indonesia or one of those places. They've gone away from using coal themselves, but they export it.
They export it. Yeah, Indonesia is sitting on, and they're not going away. I mean, they're the leading developer of coal in the world. I mean, Indonesia is going to be like top 5 population in the world by 2050 or something like that.
I mean, they're almost the same as the United States in population.
Yeah, Indonesia's just booming. I think it's top 5. Sometime it's still going to be China and India, but then Indonesia and Nigeria, I mean, are going to be the huge population centers in the future.
All right. Well, I wanted to talk about one last thing today, and that's all the EVs in the US that are currently available was 0% financing. Ooh. And so, I mean, we've lost the $7,500 tax credit, but now all of a sudden there's brands like BMW, Dodge, Hyundai, Jeep, and Kia are cutting EV prices to keep dealer showrooms busy. And while still that's free money, there's 0% interest offers are worth looking at. Let's see, Chevy Equinox EV, Chevy Silverado EV. These all have 0%
financing from Chevy.
Yeah.
Wow.
60 months on remaining 2025 models. Chevy Silverado with that 200 plus kilowatt hour battery is reasonable if you're towing for local jobs.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to worry about running out your battery on one of those. So I think that's, you're probably capable of getting about 200 miles of range while towing a utility trailer.
Plenty for local work.
Yeah, and then you plug it back in at night. I think you're gonna, on your home charger. Mm-hmm. I think that's good. That's the only EV truck that if you're actually towing, you're legitimately towing. It's not just like me who bought a Ford Expedition with the towing package because I thought I was going to buy a boat and I never did. If you're not like me, I did that. That was about 20 years ago. But I was like, I'm sure I'm going to buy a boat.
This is going to be,
I'm definitely going to need that 8,000 pound towing hitch. And so I had it. I never towed a damn thing with it. I got the biggest engine possible. I had 300 something horsepower in that thing, and Eddie Bauer edition. I could have done a lot of things with that. Never towed it. There's always a danger I'd buy an RV and tow it. Really, you need like an F-250 vehicle though to probably tow.
That. You need
Now that is one thing though. So those Chevys though still are just a 1,500 or what they call a 3/4 ton, whatever. It's mm-hmm. not really designed. You can tow like a 15,000 pound trailer with it, but the balance isn't really proper for something like that, you really want the next class up, and they don't make EVs
They don't
into
do that.
250.
No,
segment.
no, and that, I mean, those would be what you see, standard medium-sized pickups do today. I mean, this isn't a heavy-duty work truck. It's you're not hauling the horses with it, but
Right,
it-
exactly.
it's
That's
good.
good.
It's good enough for a job site trailer, a quick job site trailer, and move your stuff in and out. Lawn companies, something like that. They're hauling those things.
All right. The electric Dodge Charger has a 72-month 0% interest. So let me see. Mustang
I haven't
Mach-E.
seen 0% in a long, because I always,
I know.
Toyota and Honda always used to have, once or twice a year they'd offer that out, but I haven't seen those in a long time.
Ford has 0% for 74 months. You get an extra 2 months for 6
bonus
6 years,
2
and 2
months,
months.
6
Yeah.
months and 2 years.
I don't know how much that lowers the payment, getting that extra 2 months on there. The Kia EV9, 0% for 60 months.
I like the EV9. I like the
Oh
EV9.
yeah, they're nice. They're big.
Mhm.
Let's see, Subaru Solterra. That's I think that's basically the Busy Forks version. That's the Subaru version of the Toyota, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think so.
0% for 72 months. The Tesla Model Y Standard. Now, this is the Standard's a new vehicle, and it has.
Does Tesla do their own financing?
They do.
They have financing. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let me see. The Standard is a little bit stripped down from the basic rear-wheel drive model, but it's 0% for 72 months. So that one, spreads out those payments, probably pretty economical that way. I mean, that's probably puts the payment under $500.
Mm-hmm.
So, Volkswagen ID4. I think there was probably more than that, but that was what it gave us for today.
That's a lot. I mean, that's not just one dealer putting it out there. That's quite a bit.
No, you've got Kia, GM, Tesla.
Mm-hmm.
That's quite a few companies.
I'm gonna go look at that Kia. I'm not in a hurry, to change out my car right now. I like it, but on the same hand, I kind of like that vehicle.
Mm-hmm. No, that's nice. There's some pretty good deals out there.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to stimulate demand again. Bill and I, last week we were covering. So despite the incentives going away, there's 30 new EV models for 2026.
Cool. Yeah.
30.
That's wild.
And there previously wasn't 30 EV models, and now all of a sudden 30 are being introduced to the US market. And I mean, it's just, it's staggering what that growth looks like and what we keep seeing in the space. Mm-hmm. Anyways, that's all we got for today, folks. I want to thank y'all for chiming in. I'll be back Friday with Bobby. Bobby will be my co-host on Friday, Oasis Amps. And because Bill is off talking about solar farms and beehives or something like that somewhere.
Maybe him and I have a meeting on that tomorrow with somebody, but it's not till late afternoon.
Yeah. Tomorrow at 4:15 Central Time, I'm going to be on E360 TV, which you can view on Roku and some other networks. I'm on a panel that's being moderated by Professor Alan Tratner.
Nice.
And I'm going to be talking about what's going on in the nuclear energy space. Originally, he thought I was going to be talking about economics. He wanted me to talk a little bit about fission and fusion. And, I can give a spiel on that. I don't claim to be an expert on tokamaks, but, I know enough to be dangerous. I know. I know more than most people, And that's what's kind of wild about the whole EV space. The more I've been in it, the more I realize, man, there's just so much I've learned in the past couple of years. And it's like for somebody normal to have any clue what's going on.
Jump into it. You realize how big that gap actually is. Yeah.
Yeah. The knowledge gap. And it's tremendous. And people have all of these, ideas that I think are being paid for by the fossil fuel industry to get them to not buy EVs because they see Tesla as this major threat. So anyways, all right. Well, Mike, I will talk to you later. And everybody, thanks for chiming in. I'll be back, like I said, on Friday with Bobby from Oasis Amps as my guest. Have a great day.